Welcome to the Common Ground podcast, where stories connect, perspectives collide, and purpose is found in the middle.
Every week, we sit down with unique and inspiring guests that come from all walks of life. People who challenge the status quo, overcome the odds, and live with intentionality.
Whether you're driving to work, on your morning walk, or just looking for that spark to ignite your week, you're in the right place.
Welcome to the Common Ground podcast with your hosts, John Fletcher and Sydney Curtin.
Welcome to another edition of the Common Ground podcast. Yes, it is your boy, Philly is in the house. He is up to bat, ready to knock this one out of the ballpark. That's right. I'm here, as always, as your host. And with me, she is radiant in red, wild in white, beautiful in blue. I guess you could just call her an all-American girl. We got Miss Sydney Nicole.
How's
Did you get the red, white, and blue?
I got the red, white, and blue. Okay. I heard the song play, actually, as you built up to it. I heard it, and the voices in my head started singing it.
What song were they singing? Because I didn't.
Well, at first, there's a song called Mr. Red, White, and Blue, but then you said All-American Girl. So I had two different country artists going in my head as you were talking.
Isn't that John Cougar Mellencamp with the All-American Girl?
To be honest, I'm not the right person to ask on names.
No, I think she's thinking of more of a...
It's a newer one.
Yeah, isn't it by Carrie Underwood or something?
All-American Girl is. The Mr. Red, White, and Blue.
It's by Coffee. His name is Coffee.
Okay, gotcha. All right, well, that was not the dad joke of the day. Hit us with it, Philly.
Oh man, you ruined my intro because I wasn't trying to talk to it.
Rewind. Cue the rewind sound.
That's too late. We doing it anyway. So I was going to tell you that, I was talking with my friend this weekend, and he told me that he took his golden retriever to the SPCA. I was like, why did you take your dog to the SPCA? He said that, and I was like, why? He said, because his golden retriever wasn't making him any money at work. I was like, what? He goes, yeah, all he wanted to do was work on pro bono cases.
Oh, ha ha ha. Oh boy.
So what do you call a priest who becomes a lawyer?
What?
Father-in-law.
Yes. Okay. Clever. I can get with that one. As always, vote for your best dad joke in the comments. Submit yours so it can potentially be read on our episode and you will be given credit.
I don't know if you noticed, but the first joke I always tried to make part of the conversation so it doesn't sound like it's a dad joke right off the bat.
I like pointing out that you do dad jokes.
I know. So I guess we need to get to the point of it because it's not about the dad jokes, even though for some of you, it may be.
This is not a dad joke podcast. This is true.
That is. Our guest today is Mary Smith. Mary is a mother, grandmother, and emerging podcaster who is passionate about speaking openly about the justice system and how it impacts family and children. Her story comes from deeply personal experiences after her grandson was removed from an unsafe home and placed with family members, only to later be returned through the court system. That experience opened Mary's eyes to the complex and often controversial world of child protection services, family court, and the difficult decisions that shape the lives of children and parents. Through her experiences, Mary has become passionate about raising awareness, asking difficult questions, and encouraging honest conversations about whether the system designed to protect children are always working the way they were intended to. She is currently developing her own podcast, Real Talk with Mary, where she hopes to create a space for people to share their experiences, perspectives, and challenges with the justice system while exploring ways the system can better serve families and protect children. Today, we're going to dive into Mary's story, talk about the justice system, and explore the difficult balance between protecting children, supporting parents, and ensuring the system truly works for the family it serves. So please join with me, Miss Mary Smith.
Hello.
Hey, Mary. And
A
you all know her. You love her. She was at my house today. But Mary, for the people that don't have the honor and privilege of knowing you as well as I do and getting to call you their adopted mom,
Aw,
what
thank you.
what has led up to where you are now? Because I mean, we're going to focus on the story of your grandson and the justice system today, but give everybody just the 30,000-foot view on you. What do you do for work? Where are you calling in from? Let's start there.
Okay, so I'm calling in from my home, as you can tell in my background. Um, what I do for work is I own my own cleaning company. And
And she's phenomenal. So if you need a cleaning lady and you live in the northern Colorado region, there is no other source you can go to other than Cleaning Services by Mary. Um, and she is in northern Colorado. I know you're home. I meant for people that are listening in other states. We've got Philly over here in Philly, not we got
I'm
Philly, not from Philly.
right. I'm calling in from Colorado, northern Colorado.
And tell us just a little bit about your backstory, because this is an interesting dynamic that you have with your grandson, your daughter's son. Um, what has kind of developed that relationship prior to all of this going on?
So my relationship with my daughter has always been kind of like hit or miss. Just because I feel like the influences in her life and stuff has always been more so like not to be with me kind of thing. That's what I've always felt. That there's always been um a point in her life where it was always like mom's always bad. Don't listen to mom. Mom doesn't know anything. And then as she's gotten older, the choices that she's made and stuff are not the greatest. But so what led us up to getting custody of our grandson was there was abuse that was on my grandson, and when they took him to Children's Hospital, that's when they learned that there was other, what do they say, healing process of healing where he was hurt and stuff like that. So when DHS stepped in, he had two broken femurs, and then when we took him to the orthopedics said that the only time he's ever seen a child with two broken femurs were in a car accident. They were not in a car accident.
Mm.
So we still do not know to this day of what actually happened. There's stories that keep coming up about what actually happened to my grandson. And um, I mean, the only two people that really know the truth are his mom and his dad, because obviously they were both in the room. But we'll never know because stories keep changing and stuff like that. So that's what led us to getting my grandson at 2.5 months old, and then we had him until he turned 1. And DHS said that it'd be really hard for them to remove him from our home once the year hit. So they removed him 11 months and 7 days to the date that we would have had him for a full year.
It's crazy that he was so little when you first started going through this. What were some of the things that changed, like, from the minute that he moved in with you? Just what was your involvement with the court like? What did that process or visitation look like? How was he adjusting at that age?
Oh, so with his adjustment, it was we called it the witching hour because we weren't sure whether if the dad would come home at this certain time or if the injuries happened at this specific time. It would be from like 6 o'clock at night until about 8 o'clock at night. So we had those where he was just um he would just cry constantly, and
Uncontrollable. Yeah.
right, because he we didn't know what was going on. So we adjusted to that. He was adjusting to us as well too, and it just it's just hard because when they're that little, they can't
Understand.
verbally right. They don't understand what's going on. All they know is that they're in pain, and uh, f- for a while, all we could do with him was um, put him in his bassinet, and thankfully, the bassinet that we were gifted vibrated. So there are times where we would put it on, and it would just knock him out, which was nice. Oh, sorry. My daughter did not have visitation there for a while because, with the legal process, they were still trying to locate her because her and the dad were on the run, basically. Yeah. And, when we finally got, um, notice of where she was, I called the cops. The cops went over to the location where she was at, and they arrested them both, and then the officer called me back and said that she's been arrested, and I'm like, "Okay, thank you." And then he asked me, "Why did you call it in? Why did you call your daughter in?" And I was like, "Well, because she has a warrant out for her arrest, and second of all, it was the right thing to do." He goes, "Okay." So after
Really?
that, yeah, I mean, that was my response. It was because it was the right thing to do. I
No,
mean,
that was his response is
oh
astounding
yeah,
to me.
yeah, I was shocked that he even asked me that because I guess, most parents would harbor their children
I was
because,
gonna say,
they
isn't that definitionally harboring a fugitive? Are you asking me or implying that I should have broken the law when I'm
Mhm.
caring for my grandchild and you guys are the ones that have supposedly have been looking for her? You're
Yeah.
welcome for doing your job and still paying me my tax dollars, you clown, like,
Right. Exactly, that's exactly how I felt. I was like, and then so we have to go through the court process of, the because they have the civil and then they also have the criminal, so we had to go through both of those. And it was just the things that, they say in the courtroom and the things that they do are completely, in my opinion, is two totally different things because they would say that they wanted something from my daughter and like just to make sure that she had a roof over her head before they gave my grandson back to her. She had to have a job, um, had to have an evaluation done just to make sure that she was safe. And out of those three, one was accomplished, and that was having a place to live.
and they still gave back to her, your grandma.
Mhm. Yes.
It's, that's crazy to me. So going back before he went back into her custody the first time, how long was your daughter how long was she in jail before they let her do whatever probation or whatever the next steps were for her?
She was in jail for 9 months.
She was in jail for 9 months. How
Mhm.
long did it take her when she got out to get a place of her own?
She recently just got a place of her own.
And
And
it's
that's
been
for
how many years since?
2 it's been about, 2 years, 2.5
Okay.
years.
Now, I guess I should clarify that question because if they gave your grandson back to your daughter,
Uh-huh.
then she had some sort of roof. So whether or not it was her own place or not, how long after her being released
Uh,
from county did she have this roof over her head?
she had it immediately.
Okay.
Um,
And was she staying with, your grandson's dad, or was it someone else, or
she was staying with her father.
with her father? Okay.
Mhm.
And what was the court's process for you guys while you had been caring for him for how long at this time? You said 11 months?
Yeah, 11 months and 7 days before they removed him from us. Their whole goal, and from the get-go, they had told us from the get-go was that, their whole goal was to reunite the families at all cost. And my husband and I both were like, "That doesn't make any sense because if you have a child who's been essayed or anything that could happen remotely to a child, why would you give that child back
Right.
to that person or to the people? Because to me, that's like giving a junkie a needle to put back in their arm after they've been trying to be sober. It's just like, to me, that doesn't make any sense. And it's really hard because, they're in the power they're in the power and then also in the position of we're supposed to be protecting these children. And I don't feel from what I've seen, um, they're protecting the children because if they're really protecting the children, why would they give them back to the perpetrator or perpetrators or put them back into the home that they were removed out of.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that doesn't make any sense to me.
So I want to go back for a second because I feel like we have to ask the question. Um, before, and I know this is mostly about the law and everything, but I want to go
Uh,
back to the fact that you turned your daughter in, right?
yes.
Because um, I feel like people will say, "Well, you didn't ask these questions," you know.
Hmm.
um,
Right. Sure.
and so and so most parents would have the opinion that I'm going to protect my daughter or son no matter what the cost. And you said your response was it was the right thing to do. Did you struggle with that decision at all? Was it something you had to think about? Was it something that you contemplated? Or was it cut and dry? It was the right thing to do.
At the moment, it was cut and dry. It was like, no, this is, what needs to be done. And then my husband and I, we've talked about it before of, you know, like the what ifs, because at the time, we were told, that my grandson's father was abusive to my daughter. So we were like, well, if we wouldn't have turned her in, would we have been burying her? I mean, those are the things now later, crossed our minds. But at the time, I was like, no, because I even sent out um, a, a text message to my family um, that said that if you guys see, my daughter, if you know where she's at, you need to call the police immediately because she has a warrant out for her arrest. What happened was that my little sister, who's actually 2 years younger than my daughter, um, she told my dad. My dad called me and said, "Your sister just told me that your daughter's over at her dad's house." I'm like, "Okay." So I got off the phone with my father and called the police, and they went and arrested her. So, I mean, to any parent that's out there that says, "Oh, I would never do that," it's just like, you need to take a moment and just really think about what's going on before you say, "I would never do that," because I understand how hard it is as a parent to turn your child in regardless of if it's a minor misdemeanor
Mhm.
to somebody who committed murder or something. It is hard, and it does take a really strong person to make those phone calls because it's not easy. I mean, I there's so many times where my daughter would call me from jail and I would decline it. Finally, I accepted the call, and I didn't wanna say too much to her because I feared that if we had to go to trial that I would end up testifying against her. So I told her, I was like, "You need to stop talking. These calls are being recorded." And she said, "Well, I know." I was like, "I just wanted to tell you that I love you." She said that she loved me too, and I was like, "I'm gonna go." And she's like, "But mom, wait." I was like, "No." I was like, "I love you," and I said goodbye and I hung up.
Gotta
So
be really hard to carry the emotional weight of trying to protect your child and your grandchild, one of which has had significantly more years of their life to make these decisions because I mean, you're right. People look at I don't know that all parents would have the strength to call in their child, but the way that I look at it too is do I want them to have the consequences that could potentially lead to death? Like where there's some whether it's
mhm,
drug usage, alcohol, whatever it is that can lead you to be killed, or would I rather know that you're safe even if you have to face the music? Um and you didn't have to just make that decision because there's a child involved too. So it's
mhm,
not just that you called your daughter in, it's that you called your daughter in navigating the emotional complexities of that while also caring for your grandchild as your own. So, how did you manage that to do what was best really for both of them? How did you make those decisions throughout that process?
I think at the time when I made that decision, I think I was just mad at her because of the decision that she's made, because my husband and I didn't raise her to be like this, you know? We
Mhm.
we raised her to be a strong, independent woman, but at the same time, I never thought in a million years that she would actually do the things that she got charged for. And it just bothered me. So navigating, calling the cops, I think I was just more mad at that time. And then looking at my grandson, I was just like, no, she needs to pay the price for what she did, or what she alleged happened, or whatever she did. I was like, no, he needed to be protected at all cost as well too.
So, how was your relationship with your daughter before all this happened?
It was It's like an emotional roller coaster. I mean, that's the best way to explain it. I mean, we would have our good days, we would have our bad days, I think, like any mother and daughter would have. But I think with the negativity that she would get from her dad's side of the family, I think it made our relationship, um it just made it harder for us to have that mother-daughter relationship.
So, I mean, I congratulate you for doing the right thing. I know it was a hard thing to do, and I do want to focus more on this whole law part, but I think for us not to talk about this part would have been neglect to the whole story and everything too.
Mhm.
Your daughter gets out. So you said that she met one of the three criteria, correct?
Correct.
And the one that she did, you said, was having a roof over her head, but she technically didn't have her own roof over her head.
Correct.
So what were the other two criteria, if you don't mind sharing, that she didn't hit?
She was supposed to have a job, and my grandson's GAL, or attorney, um, wanted her to have a psych evaluation done.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm sorry.
I said that makes sense. That's like a very common one,
Hmm.
especially when a child's been removed. So,
So she didn't have. So the state. So the two other attorneys never really forced my daughter to have the psych evaluation. Um, I do know that after she got out, she had an appointment, but it was irrelevant at this time because she was out already. Brought my grandson. Oh my goodness, my grandson was back in her custody, so it really didn't make any sense for them to move forward, because my grandson was already back in her custody, so they never went forward with it.
hmm. What do you feel like the system I mean, do you ever feel like the system, and I'm just gonna call it that because it's so many factors, that's why it's called the system, is because it's not
Uh-huh.
just the judge, it's not just the officers. Do you feel like they ever really understood the risk of taking him, not just the physical risk, but, like, the emotional risk of taking him from who he had been with quite literally since he could remember figures in his life? Was there any integration period for him, or did they just be like, "Bloop, and now you're back with this person who you haven't seen in a year?"
So what they did was, they would do these calls or whatever. Basically, it was DHS, the attorneys for my grandson's father, my daughter, and then the GAL. They would get on these calls and stuff like that. And my daughter was on there one time, and they asked me DHS asked me if my daughter could say hi to my grandson, and I'm like, "Okay, I mean, there's no harm in that." The minute we got off the phone, or not the minute, I'm sorry. So he started to get upset because he heard her voice. And then once I got off the phone, he was really upset and he was a little hard to console because he was just upset. And then after that, we would do supervised visitation. At first, we went over to one of the centers in where they told us to go in Greeley. They told us to go. One of the gals were like, "Okay, I'm gonna take him," and I was like, "No, you're not. You're not gonna. No,
Right.
I'm gonna be with him because I know exactly what's gonna happen." Has been seeing me since he was 2.5 months old as mom,
Mhm.
so and honestly, my grandson's first word was actually dad,
Mm.
and he was calling that to my husband. I mean, that's the only person that he's really known as dad. But and then so she was like, so the gal at the center said, "Well, let me talk to DHS because they told me that we could go ahead and take him and have time with his mom." And I should have been like, "Fine, but you're gonna have a really upset child, and within 5 minutes, you guys are gonna bring in that child back out to me." But I was like, "Fine, whatever. Make your phone call, do what you need to do." So that moment on, um, I would be in the room with my daughter and my grandson, and it broke my heart because my daughter wanted to just hold him, just, touch him and feel him and all those senses as moms have, well, not just moms, sorry, just as people have when they see a child, they, especially if it's your own, you want to
Mhm.
hold that child. But my grandson didn't want to have anything to do with her because he didn't know who she was.
Did the court require custody to be regained, or did they just, like, who technically was he legally in your custody for the 11 months that you had him? Okay, so did the court require
Yes,
her to regain custody, or did they just sign it back over to her as soon as she had the house?
they pretty much, in my eyes, they just handed him over on a silver platter.
My goodness. And did you bring to the court's attention that the other requirements that had previously been stipulated had not been, like, met?
No, because at the time, we did not have an attorney at the time because from listening to my grandson's GL, she said there's no reason for you guys to have an attorney. Hindsight's 2020. If you're going to go to court for any reason, you need to obtain an attorney. Period. Because there's going to be legal jargon that you're not going to nobody that's just off the street that's going to understand lawyers terminology whatsoever unless you actually went to school to become a paralegal or an attorney or anything like that with the justice system. So I feel like we should have attained one since the beginning, but hindsight's 2020. So she was telling us that we're fine. We really don't need one. And yeah, it wasn't okay. I'm just gonna call it as it is. I thought it was just a shit show from day one. It wasn't.
And how long after like, him going back into custody with his mom did he come back to you guys?
Um, we hadn't seen him, I think, for a while there, just because he had to, get to know her all over again and stuff like that. But after a while, I would say, um, oh gosh, I want to say a while after, but I don't remember exactly how long after. But
Like, are we
uh,
talking weeks, months?
months, I think it was months, just
Okay,
because he had to get reacclimated with his mom and stuff like
yeah.
that. And
And so then how long was it until did you guys get legal custody again the second time, or was it just she came back and ended up asking for help?
She always asks for help for one reason or another just because, she's out doing whatever or she needs help. I feel like we have him like 90% of the time.
Yeah.
So, which is fine. I mean, I would take him in a heartbeat.
So yeah, no, what you were saying about like having a lawyer and everything is totally 100% true. I know just from going through a divorce and just talking about regular custody.
Mhm.
Like
True.
I was the one who just moved out, right? Because I'm the one who left, and I didn't have a place. I mean, I had a place that I had 1 bedroom, I rented like a mother-in-law suite off of somebody, and that's where I was living. So, I didn't have space for 3 kids, you know?
Right.
I didn't have any of that. I was barely could make my my bills. So, when I finally got to a place where I felt like I was settled, I could I moved back to the house where, it was our house, and I had the money. I went and got a lawyer, and it's like, I want at least 50% custody of these kids. I want my kids back. And he point blank told me, he's like, so timing matters and all that. He goes, first of all, the courts favor the mother.
Mhm.
Second of all, um, if you didn't care, the court's going to look at that if you didn't care to have your kids right away, then why do you care now?
I wanna smash that too, and I'm just like, I hate to interject. The courts don't even favor the mother, they favor the path of least resistance. So what that means for them is that mothers are already treating the government like their baby daddy. Mothers are already getting social welfare, they're already getting food stamps, so why would we involve somebody else that also has to now be on state-funded assistance programs when we could just give the mother the benefits that we're already giving her, come up with some form of child support arrangement that he's gonna pay that lessens money out of the state's pockets and call it a day. I really don't think that it has anything to do with favoring the mother. I think it's the path of least resistance because I'm my daughter's mother and nobody gives a rat's ass. And it's partly because of what you said. It has to do with the timing, but it's whatever is the path of least resistance. And what does the law say? Like, is this person a physical danger, emotional danger, or mental danger? And even then, as we're hearing in Mary's story, it's still the path of least resistance because we didn't check all of those boxes. We don't know if this woman's a mental or physical danger because we didn't do a psych evaluation. We said, okay, they've got a roof. It's been 11 months. Let's get this show on the road. Let's get this case off of our desk.
And I mean, for when I got divorced as well too, they actually favored my ex and I, and it was
Yeah. Yeah,
because
totally.
I literally had no place to go. And I did not want to take my kids to the streets, even though I wanted my children with me. And then we made a verbal agreement that once I got my feet down and, or, uh, whatever that saying is, sorry.
Planted. My seat's
Thank
planted.
you.
Good.
When my feet are planted, that he would give the kids back to me. And he said, yes. And I was like, do you swear to God? And he goes, yes, I swear to God. No, he still would fight me on everything. And
Which is which is surprising because in this case, the least resistance should have been leaving the kids with Mary.
Well, yes and no, because the goal is when the child at a young age is in the custody of somebody else, and they're dealing with it's still an open case in the sense that they had somebody who was actively in jail for what sounds like close to like a 9 of those 11 months, wherever the chips fell in that time period. So there was still an open case, and that was what she was bringing up every single time that she spoke with an attorney. So it was, even though custody had been reassigned, it wasn't a dead case. It's not like it was a cold file. This woman hadn't gone missing. She was
Mhm.
constantly bringing it up every time she talked to anybody who represented her case file.
So we had to make sure that we had to make sure that the civil was closed as well as the criminal was closed. And once the criminal was closed, and they could finally um, focus on the civil. Once that was closed, then they're like, case is closed, we're done, and let's move on. It's just, it's just sad because when you see a child thriving, or when a child is removed from the home, regardless of what the circumstances are, I feel like if the child is thriving, not being abused, not being neglected, not anything happening, why remove that child from where they are? Because when you're a foster parent or a kinship parent, which was my husband and I, we were a kinship because it's my grandson. They made us jump through hoops. And with the parents, because that's their legal rights as a parent, they basically just handed the child back on a silver platter. And I've heard from going through classes, because that's what we have to do to maintain our license. The stories that I've heard, it's just mind-boggling because it's just like, why do we keep traumatizing these children? Because especially when they're like, well, we don't want to traumatize these children, then why do we keep the cycle going? Why are we not looking at the parent going, all right, well, because you're using meth, and if you remove yourself from the house to go use meth, but there's a sober person at the house, that's okay. But when the parent comes back, they're all jacked up. And
Yeah.
then the sober person has to leave or whatever the case may be. So why do we keep doing this? We complain about the children that are coming up and saying that these children are problematic, they're this, that, and it's just like, but why? What happened in their lives where this is coming up? And it's a vicious cycle, and it's mind-boggling to me, and it's like common sense has there's no room for common sense anymore, I don't feel like, because it's just out the window.
Yeah.
So here's my question though. How much of that is the law versus um the justice system being lazy and wanting the path of least resistance?
Mhm.
Because if the law is written to that fact, even if a judge, let's say, wants to do the right thing, sometimes I can understand that judges could be handcuffed
Right.
by what the law states.
Mhm.
So how much is it the law versus just the path of least resistance, which we've been talking about? That's what the courts prefer.
Well, I mean, I think we would have to look into that because I have no idea. I mean, we've been told when we went to court and stuff that, well, this is what it is because this is what the law says. Okay, well then let's challenge the law then. Why can't we why can't we do something about it? Why do we always have to stick with
Can. No, yeah, I mean, like, I've changed a lot. It's not fun, but I've done it. It's a tedious process, but all of that being said to say, I think that it's just identifying the specific law that is hindering the system from being able to do what's right versus taking the path of least resistance, or as John put it, maybe it's not taking the path of least resistance. Maybe there's certain verbiage or certain subclauses that are at a certain point tying people's hands, and that's what we need to know in order to change. Because you're right, like, we can't change it if we don't know it. When
exactly?
you don't know your history, it's doomed to repeat itself. And unfortunately, because the family unit is so broken now, we see these encounters with DHS and family services way more often than we did in previous generations because marriage fails statistically significantly more often. Kids have kids younger, or they did for a long time. Now there's like a drop in people having kids, but that'll come back. So,
Yeah, no, I agree. I wish, we could just look at things at face value and just be like, you know, I don't know,
who do you feel like is actually being protected most of the time? Because like people have strong opinions about a system that they don't even understand. At the end of the day, who do you feel like, if you just had to collectively say it's this group of people when it pertains to DHS, who do you think that they are more often than not protecting, whether that's right or wrong?
I think they'd be actually protecting more of the DHS just from what my experience is. I mean, I think
They're protecting the actual entity itself, or they're protecting, like, natural, like, bio parents?
think I think it's a combination of both. Because they have to I feel like DHS has to do what okay. This is gonna sound really I don't know. I feel like they have to do what the law states, but then they also are the ones that are in um the front row going, okay, well, this is what I see. This is what I think needs to be changed. And let me give this to the judge because this is what the judge is going to go off of. I mean, so therefore, I mean, that's from what I've seen.
No, no, I think you bring up an interesting point because I think there is a part where who would know who would know where the holes in the law are but DHS,
Uh-huh.
right? But DHS has to get funding. It has to get it has to get, its funds to survive. And so it has to go to politicians, and so it's this real ugly thing where, you know, maybe in the beginning there might have been some people who were like, "Hey, we need to change this," and then politicians fighting back. Now DHS becomes an organization where no sense of even bringing it up to my superiors to fight to go to politicians to change it because it goes nowhere because politicians that's not going to get them reelected or it's not going to get them the funding from somewhere else.
right.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's 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 sad. It takes people unfortunately it takes people like Sydney who experience, something wrong who goes and fights for rights and makes it her life being.
Hmm.
And I know that's kind of what you're wanting to do with your new podcast. You're wanting to shed light on stuff. It takes extraordinary people to stand up and to fight for what's wrong because there is a whole bunch against getting the things corrected.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of red tape. What should actually qualify someone to be able to regain custody?
Oh, I think that they would have to do um the requirements of kinship and as well as foster parents. They should be jumping through the hoops even more so than kinship and foster care parents.
You mean if you've lost custody that you should have to meet the same criteria as the people that had to basically take the classes and do the tests and stuff in
Correct.
order to prove that you've gotten. Okay, so at what point does it become that, like, stability matters more than biological connection? Because, like, what if we have then, by changing laws too much, parents that are being unfairly punished when they're actually trying to make genuine change?
Parent is actually making a genuine change and the court sees it, then oh, that's a tough one. Because I still feel like if the child I don't know, I'm really torn on that one because I understand that if the child is in a stable environment, why remove them from that environment, because they're thriving and then put them back with the bio parents. I think there should be some type of a balance between that. If the parents are actively doing what they're supposed to be doing to regain that custody back, then the child should be returned.
and the reason that I asked is on purpose,
I
because
know.
just because biology creates connection doesn't mean that it comes with guaranteed safety. Like,
I know.
people reproduce carelessly, and we can't compromise a child's safety because of a biological connection. On the flip side of that coin, we have to really look at things very cautiously. And I just, it's such a, because it's such a case by case situation, and
Right.
that's what makes it difficult. Is I unfairly have my daughter's adoptive parents saying that I'm not a safe person for her, but they're doing that out of their ego and they
Mhm.
have no actual ground to stand on. Whereas in your case, when you had your grandson, you had custody of him for 11 months after somebody was able to prove that he was injured by the hand of his own parents. And then 11 months later, just they have a roof over their head of some kind. And okay, now we're going to give the kid back, even though this is the only home he's known in the most formative years of his life, or one of the sets of the most formative years of his life. And it's just like, for me, second chances for adults can't come at the cost of first chances for children. Like, that is still a scar that we're leaving on the child. So just because an adult got a second chance doesn't mean that we now just get to ignore the scar and the
Mhm.
wound that this left has left on this child's life.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. And I had a feeling that you were asking that question. Um, I just I understood what you were talking about with that question, but it's just
Well, I think that there's some people who have been like, you see parents that have been, I mean, we've had guests on that were really in the whole lost custody of their kids, and it took them years to turn their life around.
right.
And then years later, they get custody of their kids. I mean, that's a hard transition for kids, right? So being like, okay, these kids were with somebody else for years of
Mhm.
their life, and then mom randomly comes back into the picture, like, that's life altering. And I don't want to take away from the gravity of that, but do children deserve a natural connection with their parents if they so desire? I think the answer is yes. And I think that the same goes for adoption.
Yes.
Does that mean that the mother then, though, has the right to remove the children from the people that have cared for these children for years? Also, no.
No.
And that's where I think that the court doesn't see eye to eye, as like, once we've reassigned custody, yeah, should we on our biological connection once we have met a criteria that we can later agree upon and write into the law that this is what you need to do in order to regain custody of your kid? Yes. Should that be tightened down on?
Yeah,
100%. Like, we need
absolutely.
to do a more thorough job of what we're doing. But then we have parents that come back resentful almost
Mhm.
at the person who cared for their child because they failed to take responsibility, or because of resentment, or because of relationship dynamics, whatever the hell it is. And now my child is the weapon,
Exactly.
right? Like,
That's exact
now we're weaponizing the child that has already been through the wounds that we as adults have made them carry. And that's where I say, put the fucking swords down. Like, excuse me, but like, put your weapons down. This kid has to be at the center of all of it.
Oh,
I don't give
absolutely.
a shit how you feel,
I
me.
agree with that 100% because it's it's funny that you brought that up, Sid, because um not funny like ha ha funny, or it's just ironic how you brought that up because I feel like my daughter does resent me because my grandson will choose me over her, and um every morning when she comes to pick him up, he's like, "No, I don't want to go with mommy." And I have to reassure him sometimes. I'm like, "Well, go with mommy. You guys are going to go do some stuff and then you might be back." And when I say that to him, he understands, "Oh, I might come back to papas and yayas." But I
Mhm.
have to tell him that. I have to reassure him because he won't go with her. Or there's times where he's having a meltdown and I literally have to carry him to the car, buckle him in, and they drive off while he's still screaming his head off because he doesn't want to go.
Which doesn't help her emotional volatility that already exists in
No.
the relationship dynamic, because now she's mad at you because her son wants to be with you.
Mhm.
And honestly, this is where parents have to step up. Like, this is where, if you're not taking the steps that you need to get your child involved in OT, to deal with your own demons, to OT, for those viewers who don't know, is occupational therapy. Play therapy is another great form. And I'm not even saying that it has to be this extreme
Mhm.
of a situation. Like, it doesn't have to be a parent that's been to jail or lost custody. I mean, even just co-parenting, having skills to emotionally regulate ourselves is what teaches our children how to emotionally regulate.
Right.
And if you can't be an adult with somebody who loves your child enough to do what you have done for your grandson, that's a reflection of you, not the kid.
Mhm.
and now you're just hurting your son
Yes.
as a result of this. And it's hard for me when I see women, and it is specifically women. I am gonna say that. Come after me in the comments. I don't really care. That tend to weaponize their children in co-parenting dynamics too.
Yes.
So, like, John has dealt with that in divorce, and women use children as their emotional ammo, whether it's for child support or whether it's for fathers, or whether it's for something like this.
Absolutely.
So
Because there was one time where my ex goes, I told him I was coming over to go to get the kids, and he goes, "Do you have my child support?" And I'm like, "No." He goes, "Well, you're not going to come. You're not going to see the kids." And I'm like, "Huh. Okay." I go, "I'm sure if I call the cops and they'd really appreciate you knowing that you're holding the kids for ransom before I give you the child support." He goes, "Come get the kids." And I'm like, "That's what I thought." So
yeah. No,
it's mostly women because women feel like they have the power when they have that. And the same thing
mhm,
with men. If they have if they have something that they're able to hold over your head, they're going to use it. And that's like
mhm.
I finally told my daughter because anytime that she got mad at my husband and I, she would use my grandson, where we wouldn't be able to see him. Sometime I think it was the most I think it was 2.5 months that we didn't see him. And finally she told me one time, she goes, "Well, you're not going to see him." And I'm like, "Okay." And once I took that power away from her, she doesn't use it anymore because she tells me that, and I'm like,
Because she needs the help more than she wants to weaponize him because she hasn't dealt with her own shit.
"Right.
So now she loses the built-in babysitter that she's taken advantage of for all these years of her son's life.
Yes.
She needs to be held accountable to that as a
Mhm.
mother. It's the same thing with it's why I have never asked for a dime from my daughter's dad. Like, I don't we have co-parented. My daughter's gonna be 6 in October, so I guess she's 5.5. And I've never had a dime from her father's given to me.
Mhm.
Now we split her childcare costs, but he pays that to our daycare provider directly. I do not take a dime for her. He doesn't ask for anything from me because at the end of the day, we had a child together. And regardless of who makes what, we are equally responsible for this child's needs. Therefore, why would I not just split it with the other 50% of who procreated my daughter with me?
Absolutely.
Like, that's the logic. Why are we turning our child into a monetary incentive or a emotional incentive? I hate it.
Because
I can't
it's
stand it.
power. That's what people want. They want power. And if they have a way to get the power, then that's what they're going to use, regardless of it. If it's, um, if it's,
You are a shitty person if you're listening to this and weaponize your kids, and I hope that you sleep on that tonight and really contemplate your life choices. Like, I really do. If you use your child as a weapon to gain leverage over your child's father, your child's mother, your grandparents, like your biological parents slash your child's grandparents, adoptive parents to bio parents to adoptive parents, I don't care. Don't be a shitty person.
they can breathe underwater.
Yeah, my line. You ever tried to breathe underwater?
That's why I said
So
that.
bad.
Oh my goodness. But yeah.
It makes me think of King Solomon, in the Bible. And as a wise king, he had 2 women who
Mhm.
claimed to be the mother of a child. And the one mother's like they're both like, "I'm the mother, I'm the mother." And, and so he goes, "Okay." And he goes to his headman, he goes, "Cut the baby in half and give it to a half to each of them."
Hmm.
And the one mother stood there and didn't say a word and was all pissed off. And the other one's like, "No, no, give give the baby to give the baby to the other woman," you know? And King Solomon goes, give the baby that woman. Give the baby to that woman because that's the mother.
Mhm.
Because the mother would sacrifice her own being for the well-being of her child.
Exactly.
And what we have is a court system who isn't King Solomon. We have a court system who, again, I agree with Sydney, wants to go to the path of least resistance because our our judicial system should be set up to properly vet and do what's best for the kids, not what's expedient, not what's cheaper, what's less invasive. And my personal opinion is that I think if you have lost custody, and I'm talking the custody has been taken away from you,
Mhm.
not separated or anything else, but if there was a reason why they proved that you weren't fit to care for a child, then that whole biological rights go out the way. Like, I think you need to, like, if you are to go back into the child's life, like, you have to integrate yourself into the life that they're already doing,
Exactly. Yeah.
and prove everything by you having to go 10 times out of your way to show up to the school that they're going to part that their routine stays the same. You have to make the sacrifice and make your way to that other family or the grandparents or whoever's watching, and physically have to be there at theirs, sitting at them, having dinner with them, because you haven't earned that right to have them back. For you just to pull and rip a child out of a situation and give it back makes no sense to me. Until you've earned that thing back, that child, you know, because again, the success rate is when you pull that child away, exactly what happens here, right? The child cries because it's going away from what it feels is safety, a
Absolutely.
safe place, a place that he calls home.
Hmm.
And that is going to not just do damage to the child now, but do mental damage to the kid for years in advance.
Absolutely.
And you wonder why some kids have these mental issues and everything else is because our court system has failed them from the very beginning of their life.
Yes.
There is so much to talk about, but time has already flown by. Um, I mean, I think even if we were doing a Joe Rogan 2 hour plus episode, we wouldn't get through an ounce of what actually needs to be talked about.
No.
I'd be pulling out the law book.
Right.
I'd be reading code.
But from everything you've experienced up to now, um, if you can go back to the beginning of the situation and give yourself a piece of um, advice, what would you say to yourself?
Get an attorney.
What advice would you give yourself?
Get an attorney.
Hmm.
Because I honestly feel that if I had an attorney, they would have fought tooth and nail to keep my grandson with us. And the other thing is that we finally obtained an attorney, but it was towards like the tail end of it. So she had to um yeah, catch up basically for a year over everything that happened. And um yeah, it was like I said, it was yeah, that's what I would tell myself is get an attorney.
Mhm. Thank you. Well, that's gonna bring us to our uh, key takeaways.
Key takeaways.
It's that sometimes the system checks boxes while the kids live out the consequences of those boxes that are being checked. Protecting children isn't always what looks good on paper. It's what safety looks like in real life, and unfortunately, it's the consequence of human nature. It's the consequence of sin nature that often puts us in this situation to begin with. When we don't deal with our brokenness, we let our children then carry that brokenness. Our baggage
Mhm.
becomes their baggage, whether we intend it to or not. And if the system functions to do one thing appropriately now, it's deter people from getting involved in the system. It's not effective enough because people still do it, but it's such a shit show and it's such a nightmare. And I seriously think about the fact that, I mean, every time I want to absolutely kill an idiot that, like, in my day to day life, I
Mhm.
just think about the fact that I don't want to get involved with DHS because if I do something that gets me in trouble with the law, they're like, "Oh shoot, she's a mother." And now they see tax dollars and everything else that they can get out of me. So if there's one thing that they do effectively, it's that they deter people that have half a brain from getting involved because of what a living nightmare it is. But it does need to be changed, and I think that we as citizens in each state, because it's different state by state, should know what the law says. It should encourage us to be educated. It should encourage us to really consider the consequences of our actions with divorce, with co-parenting, with reproducing in the first place. It's 2026. Y'all know how babies are made, okay? So that I guess that's my key takeaway is like be smarter. That's what I need society to do collectively is be smarter. And yes, we need reformation, but like let's start by not being stupid.
Well, I'm going to go to that reformation part. That's part of my key takeaway. It's like I my takeaway is that
Absolutely.
if you are a DHS worker and you're seeing stuff that's broken, stand up.
Hmm.
Stand up and and don't just let it be the norm. Um if you're somebody who's dealing with this, stand up and fight. Like I know, you know, I'm thankful for Sydney because I know that she, for adoption, has made this her cause, you know, and she writes books for women who are going through it to help them through stuff. There's a million things we can do, even if we can't change the justice system. But, you know, it's we the people, right? Like, let's start acting like we the people. Like, let's stand up. Like, we're we're watching our country fall apart and crumble and nobody's standing up. You know, we're celebrating 250 years, you know, as a country. But you know what happened 250 years ago? Men stood up.
Hmm.
Men stood up.
Absolutely.
And that's going to, I guess, take me a different way than I was going to go. I'm going to talk particularly to men. You need to stand up because I know feminism exists, but it takes men leading the charge. And so if you know, the man in this situation needs to stand up and fight for their children. Fight, you know, be the voice, be the encourager to the woman to stand up, you know? We need to be better. We need men to start being men and stop with this feminism bullcrap that men are worthless because our country is falling apart. And, you know, no, I'm not going to say
No, you now you
it.
have to.
What?
Go ahead.
I was gonna say the one man that I've seen in the last week, it was pushing a a, a 5'4" girl to the ground from behind. You know, like I don't mean that kind of standing up. But to me, that's cowardly. You know what he did to Savannah Henderson. You know, like that man is not a man. You picked on a little woman and you threw her to the ground from behind. Um, like, but that's the man you see standing up in the last 2 weeks, right? You you see that clip playing over. You know, where's the men standing up for the right things? Where's the wisdom? Where's men having wisdom and being the wise, being the guy who's like, listen, let's make sense of stuff. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah,
men need to stand up. And I know we're talking
absolutely.
more about a women's situation, but the men need to stand up.
Yeah.
That's
I
my
could do a whole
takeaway.
nother segment on that. But Mary, I want you to say this like the entire system is listening to this. What do they need to hear right now that nobody's saying?
I feel so what I feel like is that what needs to be said is that if you see something that's happening, you need to say something. We need to actually protect these children at all costs because this I know is a cliche to say, but these children are our future, and if we keep letting them slip through the cracks, we're not going to have a future. So I feel like if you see something, say something. We need to stand up, like John said, and fight for what we know that is, you know, the right way to do things. We're not a bunch of. I don't feel like we're a bunch of ignorant people, but I know that's really a harsh thing to say. But I think that if um, we want to protect these children, we actually need to actually stand up and actually protect these children, regardless of what the cost may be. Because shoot, I was going to say something about what you said, John. Sometimes doing the right thing may not always be the easy thing.
It usually isn't.
No. So I think it may not be an easy thing, but if something's going on, then we need to protect these babies.
And if our viewers in our comment below, please let us know your key takeaway. Um, talk. Let's start a conversation about this in the comments. Let's keep this conversation going, and comment below your key takeaway. And while you're commenting below, doing that key takeaway, our goal is to hit 1,000 subscribers, YouTube subscribers, by the end of this year. So while you're doing that comment, hit that subscribe button on YouTube so that you can help us, and you can help the algorithm find us, and you can help us grow and reach bigger people and have more and more important conversations like this. So comment below, hit that subscribe button, and thank you. And that's going to bring us to our final segment, the final five.
The final five.
Who is your hero and why?
Oh, I was thinking about this. Mary Lou Retton.
Hmm.
So she was. So Mary Lou Retton is a. Sorry, that's my dog. She's a gymnastics. She was in the. Uh,
It's kind of
oh,
kind of ironic that he's doing gymnastics right now while you're bringing up Eric.
that's my dog. Yes. So she's a gymnast. I think she's a gold medalist as well too, back in the '80s and stuff. The reason why I always felt like she was my hero, is because she was. I believe she was the smallest on the Olympics team, but she grew above it, or not grew. Oh my gosh. Um, I can't even think.
She had the heart of a lion.
Yes, thank you. She had a heart of a lion, and she just because she was the smallest didn't mean that defined who she was.
Like it. Next question for you is going to be, what is something that you thought you knew about parenting that changed when you did it the second time around with your grandson?
Everything,
All of it.
all of it. Um,
She's like, give me that everything bagel.
Yeah, truly.
Let me break out my manual because oh my gosh. The things that the way that I would discipline my children is completely different than I discipline my grandson. Um, Pulling a toy away from him, or from taking something away from my child or my children when they were little, devastated them. Pulling a toy away from my grandson, depending on what it is, that can determine whether or not he's gonna mind and listen. So yeah, so that is my answer, is just what I knew from my kids is completely different from my grandkids.
Question number 3 is, what either book, verse, quote, saying, song, whatever had the greatest either impact in your life, or it's like a life motto, or something that has helped you extremely in life?
So you guys all know Matthew McConaughey. At least I hope so anyways.
Love Matt.
Um
Dream guest to have him on this podcast. So if you're out there listening, Matthew McConaughey, I would love to sit down and talk with you.
So he has a book that's called Green Light. If you haven't read it, you need to read it. It's where he finds something negative and he turns it into a green light, as he says. The quote that he made on stage for receiving um award, I don't even know what award because I don't watch him anymore. He was asked, um,
This hero.
yes,
I
that's
know
where I was
exactly
going
where
with
you
it.
were going.
Oh, good. So that is where I'm at. Is I am myself 10 years from now. The person I look up to is obviously God. And the person I'm chasing is me or something like that. So I'm always one to strive to do better, be better than my version of myself from yesterday.
Go up for my viewers who have not known what this is. Do Matthew McConaughey, YouTube, do in the search bar, Matthew McConaughey, award, hero, and listen to the speech. It's like 10 minutes. Do the 10-minute version of it. It is fabulous. It is one of my favorite things. You don't know how many times I play that for people in my Uber
Mm.
when I'm having conversations.
The other one you need to pull up is from Steve Harvey, The Jump.
I will.
It is he's on his show, and I think they're in a commercial break or something, and he's talking about jump or jumping. And I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, but just Google it, listen to it. It's phenomenal. I love it. Every time it pops up on my memories, I'll listen to it again or I'll share it with somebody else. But those are
And I have Green Light on audiobook, and I love it.
so good.
All right.
Dream guest. Matthew, come to the show.
You're so fun. Sometimes the hardest stories produce the softest moments. So I want you to, when we release your episode, clip this and save it in your phone so that one day you can show it to them. I'm going to ask you a two-folded question. One, when he's with you, what do you want him to feel and remember feeling with you? And two, what kind of man do you want him to become?
So when he is with me, I want him to know that he is always loved. I'm always a safe space for him, regardless. And the man I want him to become is a very genuine, loving, spiritual man.
And the final question is, if you could sit down and have a conversation and a cup of coffee with anybody, either living or dead, who would it be and why?
So the person or people that I would actually want to sit down with and have a cup of coffee with are both of my grandmothers. They're both deceased. My my namesake is actually from my grandma Mary. That's my dad's mom. Um, she died when I was 6 or 7. So I was pretty young still, and my grandma Dottie, which is on my mom's side, just because I would want them to see the woman that I've become and know that I've tried everything I possibly could to be the person that they would hope and want me to be or become.
Very good. And Mary, for anybody listening who wants to follow you and your story or listen to your podcast, hire you for your wonderful cleaning services, where can they go? How can they find you?
So you could always find me on Instagram, Fort Collins Gal, or TikTok. Hey, it's me.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. What a
Thank you.
wonderful conversation today. Look forward to your podcast when it does come out, and we'll definitely be promoting that for you and all that. But remember, when we take the time to hear someone's story, it gives us the opportunity to find common ground. Thank you, Mary, for being our guest today. For Sydney and I, it has been our pleasure being your host, and you have been listening to the Common Ground Podcast. God bless and good night.
Thank you, guys.
And that's it for today's episode of the Common Ground podcast. We hope you're leaving with a little more perspective, a little more purpose, and a whole lot more inspiration.
So thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it. Thank you to our special guest.
If today's conversation moved you, encouraged you, or challenged you in any way, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, rate it, leave us a review. Your support helps us reach more people who need to find their own common ground.
So for John Fletcher and Sydney Curtin,
we'll see you right here next week, same time, same place on the Common Ground podcast.
Please take a moment to listen to this disclosure from the Common Ground podcast. The Common Ground podcast is dedicated to exploring commonality among individuals with diverse perspectives. Our guests may present unique worldviews related to health, psychology, and overall well-being. Please note that the Common Ground podcast does not directly promote or endorse any specific ideas, concepts, or actions discussed during our episodes. Listeners are encouraged to approach the information shared with discernment and to consult with their mental and/or physical health providers before making any changes to their health or wellness practices. The views expressed by guests and hosts are their own and do not directly reflect the opinions of the Common Ground podcast. Your well-being is important, and we advocate for informed decision-making. Thanks for listening.
welcome to the Common Ground podcast, where stories connect, perspectives collide, and purpose is found in the middle.
Every week, we sit down with unique and inspiring guests that come from all walks of life, people who challenge the status quo, overcome the odds, and live with intentionality.
Whether you're driving to work, on your morning walk, or just looking for that spark to ignite your week, you're in the right place.
Welcome to the Common Ground podcast with your hosts, John Fletcher and Sydney Curtin.